Folks, welcome to an all new episode of So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. This is your Tuesday episode. How the heck is everybody doing? Listen, we're trying to getting back into the swing of things. Back from Columbus, Ohio. Shout out to my grandma. But today we are going to try to laugh. Have we forgotten about laughter? We are going to do a recap of episode 3 of Citizen Kane. I'm sorry, no. I mean, The Valley. Oh yes, ye of little faith, all of you people that said I'm not going to watch The Valley. Well, who's even going to be watching this? We didn't ask for this. Well, guess what? I asked for this, and I'm damn glad I did because this is just glorious trash. I am so enjoying The Valley, and I think it is undeniable that Jax Taylor and Kristen Doty are television stars on top of television messes, but they're stars. I mean, it's hard to come to that acceptance, but I've accepted it, and I'm just excited to watch where we go here. I mean, listen, on episode 3 at the end, we get this Jesse Lally putting a hand up for his wife to be quiet, slamming a table down. Luke, Christian's boyfriend, stands up. I mean, it's got all the things that we need from a good reality television show. I can already see this in its 4th and 5th season. I mean, this is one to watch. I'm telling you guys. So I couldn't let a week go by without recapping The Valley, especially because I thought it was a really strong third episode. And like I said last week, the ratings, you guys, like Vanderpump Rules got like a 1.0 in that range, like 1 million, like on same day viewers. They got a 0.770. And that might not sound like a lot to you guys, but that means it kept over 3/4 of Vanderpump Rules audience. Usually the show after any show will drop off maybe like 50%, sometimes even more. Like Summer House Martha's Vineyard, it had like a 70% drop from Real Housewives of Potomac on its first Sunday. And The Valley is picking up viewers. And that's not even taking into account Peacock, DVR, anything. That's just one night only viewers. And that is really good for this show. So I would expect in the next 2 weeks to get an official pickup for season 2 of The Valley. I would expect that any day now, honestly. But I think it's just a ridiculous show. And I like that. I like that it's ridiculous. I keep saying over and over again, it's Scandival adjacent, just in the fact that it has the same DNA as Vanderpump Rules because of the characters, but it doesn't for some reason have that Scandival stench on it. It has a whole nother stench. It's that really deeply hot stench you get when you actually are in the valley during a summer. That's the stench it has. And I think it smells very good right now. So we'll get into that today. How are you? Are you good? How was the eclipse? Is anybody blind? How did it go? Did everybody get, I mean, listen, it truly, when I think about it, it truly is kind of a magical thing, right? It makes you realize you're on a planet. It makes you realize there are other forces at work. There is all of these amazing things. Like, I really didn't think that much about it. I was like, dude, if I want to see like a dark hole, I'll just like look within myself on a daily basis. But then I was like, you know what? I like when people get excited by things. Like, I was in Ohio, I told you on Monday, every grocery store was selling like the eclipse glasses and t-shirts. And I was like, this is like an event. This is a whole thing. And I didn't really even think anything about it. But it's good to be excited about something. I like that. I like anything that people get excited about, except for elections. Also, if you are watching this on YouTube, which by the way, we're over on YouTube as well. And this started off and will always be a podcast, audio form podcast. And for anybody watching over on YouTube, hi, hello, how are you? Thank you for being here. But just know, usually with any of the audio, with any of these podcast episodes, you're missing like whole chunks that I put on the audio podcast only. Like on Monday's episode with the amazing Carlos King, I did like 30 minutes with my dad, which was a real nice conversation that I was able to have with him. So there's always something more than we put on the YouTube, because that's how this is conceived and will always be in my mind, is this audio podcast. But it's amazing that people are checking it out on YouTube as well. But if you check it out on YouTube, go over and listen to the audio version sometimes, or subscribe, rate us 5 stars over there. It really does help. I mean, every little bit helps. Every new ear, every new person. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to finally get to the Patreon Summer House episode tomorrow. So hello, baddies. Patreon.com/so bad it's good. And that's it. I'm just kind of going along. By the way, that's what I meant. If you're watching on YouTube, look how my eyes are big bowling balls. Do you see this? It's because I got my eyes dilated today. And so my eyes look like big bowling balls, and I have a real sensitivity to light right now. So I might be squinting a lot and look like I'm in deep pain because I bit the bullet and I'm getting LASIK surgery on Thursday. That's right. I am getting LASIK surgery on Thursday because I was so tired. My vision is just getting progressively worse because it turns out I am getting older. And word on the street is you guys are getting older too. So I was like, I can't do this because I would lose my glasses all the time. And then you're like putting your glasses on to see in distance, taking them off to read my phone. And I'm doing this LASIK where it's like monovision. So like one eye they're correcting for distance, one eye they're correcting, for up close. And supposedly the brain then like gets used to it and just becomes normal. That does, by the way, me even saying that out loud, going, I know I'm going to be the one person that the brain just doesn't get used to it. And I hear you have some really bad headaches in the beginning with this, but like I watched this season of Vanderpump Rules, so I'm used to pain. But I do that on Thursday. I'm doing Jeff Lewis's show on Thursday on Sirius, and then I jet directly from there to go do this LASIK surgery. And I'm really excited and scared about it, but I don't really usually do things like self-care things, like, so I'm kind of nervous and I'm kind of excited and I hope it goes well. But I'll let you guys know how it goes at the end. I'm sure you'll find out because I'll be just moaning and bitching if it doesn't go well. Okay, let's get in. Listen, there's a lot of pop culture stories I want to cover that I'm not going to be able to do today. Hopefully I'll be able to do that on Wednesday's show. I wanted to cover Morgan Wallen, the country singer, getting arrested again. Sunday night, he threw a chair off a bar balcony in Nashville. Could have like killed somebody. Really, he threw it from like a 6th floor balcony. He got arrested, and yeah, tough stuff. There's so many things going on right now. I mean, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, which we've been talking about nonstop on this show. I mean, a lot of shit happened to Gypsy Rose in the last week. She gets divorced from this Ryan guy that she met in prison, went back to her former boyfriend, fiance from prison before Ryan. Then the former boyfriend and Gypsy went off and got matching tattoos. And then to end the week, she got a nose job and she sent exclusive photos to TMZ. I'm telling you, you got to put Gypsy Rose Blanchard on the Valley. Could you imagine that season 2 of like, there's somebody new that moved in next door to Janet and Jason, Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Can you? I mean, I'm just like, I hate to say this, but I was like, like there was a second where I was like, you know what? Really, I think Gypsy's going to be okay. I think she's going to be okay. Really, really insane childhood. But now I'm just like, I don't think she's going to be okay, you guys. And on top of it, they're filming all of this for a reality show for Lifetime. This is all going to be because Ryan, her now like soon to be ex-husband, was like, yeah, you'll see on the cameras, you'll see how it all went down. I'm like, geez, just make it a whole season of Love After Lockup. Like, please. What are we even doing here? Come on, who's the brainiac that didn't think of that? Please. Okay, let's get as silly as possible with this today. I need to laugh. Let's get into this. Also, did you notice how Jax was oddly quiet on the last scene with the big fight with Kristen and all? Like Jax was weirdly quiet. Like I was like, why isn't Jax like tagging in to like get in this? Like he kind of sat back and I was like, what is like is this, does he have gas or something? Like I've usually known Jax to jump into those things, and it kind of was like, I've created this mess. Let me just watch over my kingdom. It was really bizarre. I just went back and rewatched it again, and I kept just going, man, he is oddly just letting everybody else fight and staying out of it. And I would about to say like that's growth, that's maturity, but we just know that's not true. We know that's not where he's at personally. Also, before we get into this, I wanted to, I know he won't be listening, but I wanted to give a shout out to Larry David and Curb Your Enthusiasm. Now, Curb Your Enthusiasm, they had its 12th season finale, and the series finale of the whole series was on Sunday night. They had a beautiful 53-minute episode called No Lessons Learned. And I think if you listen to an earlier episode of So Bad It's Good from when Curb Your Enthusiasm premiered, I predicted that this was how they were going to end the episode. And if you haven't seen it, you plan on watching it, maybe skip ahead 5 or 10 minutes, because I do want to talk about Curb Your Enthusiasm and how much it meant to me. And I think to a lot of us, I think Larry David, he would really absolutely hate and be disgusted by me calling him a national treasure, but I do think he is, and I think he speaks to our times. And I love the curmudgeonly um, persona that he portrays on that show, and potentially is in real life. And I have so many funny little Larry David moments that you kind of collect moments with certain celebrities if you live in Los Angeles over the like 2 decades that I've lived here. And it's like Jay Leno. I always see Jay Leno in a classic car wearing some form of denim, or I used to see Andy Dick all the time, especially when I ran a nightclub. He would always like try to sneak in at like 2 a.m. He bit one of our security guards one time, and I was like, holy shit. I have an Andy Dick tried to bite one of our bouncers story now. You just kind of collect stories of celebrities. And especially if you're like me, where you were obsessed with celebrity and pop culture, I was always that guy my friends would go to of like, who's that guy? Who's that girl? That's somebody, right? That's somebody. So you'd be like, oh yeah, that's Lindsay Lohan, or that's this. And you would collect these stories. Like I remember back in the nightclub, I remember Mariah Carey coming in for a holiday party once. I remember, who was it? Christina Aguilera. I remember Christina Aguilera having to be carried out a couple of times. I remember there were so many great little stories where you're just like, wow, it was wild to be a part of that. And I was like, man, I'm a kid from Kansas and I get to watch Christina Aguilera being carried out of a bar that I run. That's pretty damn exciting. This was in the heyday of like Perez Hilton. And I would remember I would go up to the office where I would work out of, and it would be back in the day when Perez was really popular, and you would just like refresh to see who he's talking about next. And then sometimes the people you would be talking about would be actually coming into the bar. I remember Joey Fatone coming in one night. I don't know why I just chose Joey Fatone out of all the celebrities. You want to hear something big? Joey Fatone came in. Yeah. The one and only Joey Fatone. No, it was exciting. But Larry David, before I talk about the show, Larry David is just one of those guys, obviously co-creator of Seinfeld with Jerry Seinfeld. But he had this great history that, I've learned over the years, where he wrote for SNL for a season or two. He didn't get anything even really remotely even on the air. His ideas didn't go over well. In fact, there's one story about him where he quit, and then he quit like right before a live show on a Saturday, and then realized, what the F did I do? I need this job. And so he came back in on Monday like he didn't quit at all. Nobody said anything, and he continued to work there, which actually, if you watch Seinfeld, that is a George Costanza storyline where he just keeps going in after he's not been hired. I don't know. So he did that. He wrote for a bunch of like TV shows. He was a stand-up, but he was that kind of stand-up where if he didn't like the audience, if he'd get up there, tell his first joke, he didn't like the audience, he'd be like, thank you, good night. He just seemed like he always kind of followed the beat of his own drum. And the fact that then, he was friends with Seinfeld, and, they created the show together that was a juggernaut. But even then with Seinfeld, if you follow the history of that show, in the first season, horrible ratings. And it used to be called the Seinfeld Chronicles on the first season. And it got a couple of episodes. It was like really on the border of being canceled. And I think was it Brandon Tartikoff, the NBC executive, or it was one of the NBC executives that kind of believed in it, and they gave it a second season. And then finally, around the end of the second season, it finally found its voice with the Chinese restaurant episode of them just waiting for their name to be called in a Chinese restaurant, if you remember that episode. And then it kind of just picked up steam and grew and grew and grew, and it was a juggernaut. But then Larry David, he left out after the sixth season of Seinfeld. And so seasons, I think it was 7, 8, and 9, he was not a part of. And then the series finale of Seinfeld, Larry David came back to write the finale with Jerry Seinfeld. It was a fitting way to end the show. But that episode kind of goes in infamy because nobody really truly loved the final episode. And the final episode was Uh, they are on an airplane. The plane gets diverted. It almost crashes. They land in this small town. All four of them make fun of an obese man, and it turns out they're breaking some kind of law about making fun of somebody in public, and they have to go to court, and they end up getting thrown in jail. So the series ends with all four of them having to go to jail. But in the course of that trial, all the people that they have wronged throughout the course of the series, they kind of pop up in cameos and to testify against these people. And so when I found out that Curb Your Enthusiasm this season, they were talking about election laws, and Larry passes out a bottle of water accidentally to somebody in line for voting, and that as an actual law that you can't do. I was like, oh shit, they're going to wind up at the very end where Larry's going to go to jail, and it's going to be reminiscent of the Seinfeld finale. And I was like, I bet that happens. Now it kind of happened. There's a little bit of an update with what they did with it, which I thought was excellent. But Larry David has just always been one of those people. Now, when I was studying about Curb Your Enthusiasm today, because I watched the finale like 2 times, because it's like some shows are just like comfort food to you. I mean, our reality shows are like comfort food, but sometimes I'll just have it on in the background and it just makes me happy. Even if I'm not fully paying attention, I can look up and then Larry's doing his Larry thing. And even if it's not a fantastic episode, like certain episodes of Curb don't hit for me, it's still good. Like I'm still a fan regardless, or sometimes, you guys know I'll do an episode that just completely stinks. But, some of you continue to tune in. You're like, oh, that's a great one, or that's a horrible one. That's just an average one. That's how it is with Larry David for me, or that's how it is with like Stern back in the day, or even like artists like Beyonce. There'll be like certain songs I'm like, not for me. But then there'll be a song that just knocks my socks off, like Bodyguard on Cowboy Carter. Whew, can't stop listening to that song. But he's just fantastic. So it doesn't matter if every episode is just a 10 out of 10 because I just like him. I just like him. I like what he's created. I like that universe that he's created. A couple funny stories about Larry David and me. Even though Larry David would not know who the fuck I am, thank God. I was thinking about that. It's like, oh, it would be so cool to be friends with this celebrity, or and I'm not like that at all. There is no way in hell that I would ever be friends with Larry David or that he would even like me. The fact that I like Larry David so much is just guaranteed why he would hate me. Like it would just, I mean, you just don't, you would never want to be friends with somebody that liked you so much. You know what I'm saying? He would hate me. Adam Duritz, the lead singer of Counting Crows, would hate me. It's like people that I completely would lose my mind over, and I would never be able to express in the correct language what they mean to me. They would absolutely hate me. He would hate me. Beyonce might tolerate me, but would never respect me. Would tolerate like, oh, he's very special. Like, oh, he's obviously, troubled man. But like, she might be nice to me, but would never respect me. And I feel like Larry David and people like that would never like me, and I'm okay with that. I'll never work with Larry David, and I'm okay with that because I can like him with regardless of injecting myself into it. I'm not that much of a narcissist yet. Now, Tom Sandoval, I'm sure, would love and probably thinks he will work with Larry David at some point. So here's my Larry David stories. I have a couple. Now, my ex, one time, she was a big Twilight fan, huge Twilight fan, the books, the movies, Team Edward, the whole thing. And she got tickets to the premiere. Was it New Moon or was it Eclipse? It was one of the Twilight things. And she took me with her. And even that she was on the fence with because I used to make fun of Twilight really hard. And by the way, I've read all the Twilight books. And I've recapped all the Twilight movies with Annabelle DeSisto if you want to go back into the So Bad It's Good archives and listen to those. Those are unhinged episodes. But she took me to this and we got to go to the after party. And I remember we saw Larry David with his 2 daughters, who now one of those daughters turns out it was Cassie David, but they were like young at the time, and you could tell Larry did not want to be there, but was like there because his daughters probably loved Twilight. So like I remember just like us trying to like follow Larry. I mean, from a safe distance, we weren't creepy about it, but we would just be like, let's go find Larry David. Let's go find Larry David. And I remember just being blown away that I was in the same vicinity as Larry David. Now the second story is way better than that. So my one of my friends from acting class back in the day, she dated Larry David for a while. And she's amazing, really fabulous actor, and age appropriate too. And so don't, it wasn't some young chippy. So think that, but it was great. But I remember her being a little nervous because just of their interactions over text and email. And Larry, obviously a really smart guy, he loved old films, all of these things. So there were a couple of times where I helped this girl, this lady, in her dialogue with Larry David of like, oh, I would pitch her jokes to use. And it would, and some of them, and one of the best compliments of my life was I remember what I forgot what it was because we were also in like an American Idol pool at the time. So like there was a lot of emails going back and forth with this group, but I was like giving her jokes to use on Larry. And I remember I remember one time we'd done it a couple of times and it worked and I remember one time she was just like, "Oh my god, Larry loved the joke that you gave me," and I was like, "No way." Larry thought something. Now he didn't know it was me, but still thought something that I said was potentially funny. It meant the world to me. Now when I think back too, is like he might have just been saying it was funny just because he thought it was the girl that he liked saying it, so he's gonna. Anyways, that's not. But then one day she was like, "Oh my god, you got to call me," and I was like, "What?" She's like, "We blew it," and I was like, "What?" And I guess I had given her something to write. She wrote it. He liked it. And then she went to write me. Oh my God. He completely thought that was hysterical about whatever joke it was. And she had written Larry, not me. And Larry, not being an idiot, immediately goes, were you writing somebody about me? Like knew that it was like he knew. I mean, it was like, and it didn't blow, but it was like, oh shit. I was like, no. And I was like, never give this man my name. But then they still dated for a while after that. But I remember I did get to meet Larry once because I've told this story before. She brought him to one of our actor parties. Um, and I remember it was like in a group conversation. And I remember telling Amy was like, oh, sorry. The girl was like, oh, tell the story about this. And I told it, and it was something about me being insecure, like one of my normal bits. And I remember Larry just going like, "Why would you be scared? Why that's dumb. Why would you be scared? Like just like why? Who cares? Who cares?" It was like very Larry David, but it was one of those things. And I remember at that party, I've said this before. He in the middle of the party, he just went into the other room and turned on the Lakers game by himself. Like just watch the Lakers game by himself, and nobody approached him. We didn't know him enough. I wasn't going to be like, "Can I watch the game with you, sir?" It was wild. It was, but also hysterical. How Larry David is that? The last story I have, now these are fabulous, but they're fantastic to me that I got to have these experiences. I went to see Steve Martin and Martin Short do a show at the Hollywood Bowl and with like the orchestra, the whole bit, and had really good seats. And I remember we had like a box actually, and like two rows of boxes over, like right in our eye line. It was Larry David, and I think Larry David's married now. Larry David, I think it was probably his wife, Albert Brooks, and I think his wife, and Rob Reiner, the director, and his wife, all at one table. I absolutely love Albert Brooks as well. Oh my God. So I was just losing my mind that all of these guys were sitting at one place about to watch Steve Martin and Martin Short. I just couldn't believe it. My heart was doing flip flops. And this is very, so, but they sing the national anthem, right? And they do this thing at the bowl where it'll be like, please stand up if you are an active member of the armed forces, and people stood up and Larry stood up. And he was like, he was doing a bit. Larry stood up. And I was like, oh, it's pretty kind of funny. A little disrespectful, but kind of funny. And then it was like, please stand up if you are a member of the naval forces. And Larry David stood up again. And then it was like, please stand up here if you're a member of the Air Force. And Larry David stood up again. And the joke at that point was not working at all. And it still was like before it was dark. So it was still light. And I was like, it's kind of a lame joke. And I loved that, like Larry David, he just, it sums up comedians to me perfectly, is that they'll see the bit, they'll commit to the bit, they'll do the joke, they'll run it into the ground. Even if it doesn't work, he was committing. And I was like, this is wild. There's like 15,000 people here. He keeps standing up in full view of actual people that have served in the armed forces. And he keeps doing this. And I was like, That's so Larry David, just so Larry David. And I think there's that thing of, when you love, I don't know, when somebody means something to you. I just remember I would laugh at something Steve Martin or Martin Short did, and then I would look at Larry to see if he's laughing. And then a couple of times we laughed at the same spot, and I realized, wow, I'm really creepy. This is really, it's stalkerish behavior. But anyways, sorry to go off on this. I just wanted to talk because Curb Your Enthusiasm, it premiered, guys, in 2000, in the year 2000. That was when the first Curb Your Enthusiasm started on HBO. It's been 24 years, 12 seasons in 24 years. They would take huge long breaks in between seasons because he didn't have to do it. His estimated worth is like $400 million from Seinfeld alone. But then he would think about an idea, and Curb Your Enthusiasm is interesting because it'll be like he'll have the plot line written, but it's a lot of improv. It's a lot of like, this is what it is. This is where we want you to get to. We want you to say this line, but it's not scripted out like an episode of Seinfeld used to be. And I one time talked with one of the editors of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I got to audition for a couple of times. Never got it. There was one time I was close, and that would have just been, oh man, that would have been amazing, but didn't happen. But they would say, oh my God, we have like an hour of unused material for each episode. Like we have to cut these things down. So many good things never made it to the show because it would just be improv, and they had like the best people working on it. But yeah, 24 years. And it's so weird. As I keep thinking about, I talk about this all the time about getting older and what a weird experience it is. I was like, oh, Curb Your Enthusiasm, that's been on like 8 or 9 years now. It's like, no, it's been on 24 years. But I thought it was so great because the finale also made fun of Seinfeld so much. Jerry Seinfeld actually came back and was a part of it, but also just in terms of like comedy structure, in terms of sitcom writing, is that JB Smoove, who lives with Larry on the show, it's him, Susie Essman, and Jeff Garlin, who plays his agent, and Susie Essman's Jeff Garlin's wife in it. And it was all four of them sitting at a table at this Atlanta restaurant. And JB Smoove is watching Seinfeld for the first time. He's like, Larry, oh my God. He's like, Larry, that Kramer guy, oh my God. He just walks into Jerry's apartment. You should put saloon doors. That's ridiculous. And it's so funny because JB Smoove in it, like pretty much lives with Larry without ever really having asked permission to do it. He's the Kramer character. And it was so great. These four people having this conversation when you're thinking of like, in terms of character archetypes, it's Seinfeld all over again. Larry's the Jerry character. JB Smoove is the Kramer character. Jeff Garlin is kind of the George character, and Susie Essman is kind of the Elaine character. It's a comedy is all like certain building blocks. It's usually the same building blocks in just different formations, and people bring different little bits of their own magic to. So it was an extremely meta final episode, but I think it worked. And I just think I just like Larry David so much because he doesn't need to do any of this shit. It's like what we talk about with housewives. I think sometimes the perfect housewife is a housewife that doesn't need the show, that has their own money, that will be okay if they don't make it to another season. Those are the best because then they can actually just be themselves. They don't give a fuck. And I think that's sometimes so refreshing in this day and age, because everybody wants attention so bad. Everybody feels like they need it. I always think about influencer culture and creator culture. It's like sometimes it's so frustrating to see other fellow creators because it's like you don't really even seem to have anything that you want to share. You just want to be popular. You just want to make money. You just want to be a part of this, but you don't really have anything. You don't have like your own voice yet. And it's not to say that they won't get it, but that's why I love somebody like Larry David. That's like, this is me for better or worse. You can hate me, and a lot of people do hate him. You can love me, and a lot of people do, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. He doesn't give a rip if you hate him, and he doesn't give a rip if you love him. And I think there's so much freedom in that. And I think there is so much comedic value you can mine from that kind of persona, which he has. And I think those are the voices that I am always drawn to, is something unique, something quirky, something that is not kiss ass in any sort of way, because I'll have the tendencies to be kiss ass, or I want to be liked, or I want to be that. And it's so refreshing to see people that don't care, that don't sit there, and their neuroses are about something completely different than wanting to be loved or liked. And so a tip of the hat to Larry David. I'm sure he'll go on to do other things, even though he will not need to do anything for the rest of his life. But man, I'm so lucky to live in a time period where I was able to watch two great Larry David projects, being Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I tell you, Seinfeld is still my go to bed show. Like I said last week, or maybe it was on the Patreon, I'll put my AirPods in and I'll put Netflix on my phone and I'll just listen to Seinfeld episodes. There's something about the rhythm and there's something about those four distinct characters that you just fall in love with. It's soothing. It's like a noise machine for me. So, Larry David, thank you so much. And now we're going to talk about something equally as impressive, the Valley. Let's take a trip to the valley where it's hot, hot, hot. We got Jax's Saloon. We got Dodie hooking up with the man Luke. We've got Janet and Jason about to have a baby. We got Brittany trying to move out from crazy. Jax. That's just a song I just made up. Can you even believe it? That just came straight from the dome. This episode 3, is called Doubting Dodie. What a great title name, Doubting Dodie. Doubting Dodie. Doubting Dodie, a dramatic interpretation of Doubting Dodie. Now, this is the description the cable company gives us. Everyone... Sorry. We're episode 3. Episode 2, you guys, the whole crux of it was surrounded over pinching a nipple of to use get the kids out of the room before I say this. Titty twisters. Yeah. It all was like, you gave a titty twister to Dodie, not on my watch. Luke was a real man and stood up for I would not cross Luke. Luke is quiet but deadly. This man is a lumberjack in Colorado. I didn't even think Colorado had that many woods. This man has 70 acres. He is a lumberjack woodsman. And that the whole episode 2 was about these titty twisters. Episode 3, we go from titty twisters to race. We're talking where we go. This is how intense this show has gotten. Episode 2 was about pinching nipples. Episode 3 is like race in America. Like, I'm like, oh my God, can this show handle this conversation? Like, at the very end, out of nowhere, we bring up Kristen Doty's past. And I was like, holy shit, this feels like an episode 6 plot line. We're doing okay. Let's buckle up. Let's go into episode 3. Let's do this. I just did not expect it. Episode 3, everyone turns against Kristen for the accusations she hurled at Michelle during girls' night. Now, the hurling against Michelle Lally was that it was a game of telephone. She had heard from Zach, who had allegedly heard it from Janet Caperna, that Michelle Lally was Republican and racist. The two R's, those are hard R words, Republican and racist. Those were the accusations. Kristen, they were fighting about something completely different. And then Kristen, out of nowhere at the very end of episode 2, was like, well, you're a racist and you're a Republican. And we didn't really actually get to fully see that. It was like weird, the editing, and then even how they pick up this week's episode, we only see clips. And I'm like, why are you just showing us clips of that night? Show us the full effing thing. You had a camera crew there. Why are we playing fast and loose with this? Show us the scenes. I don't need to see it edited together with Brittany and Jax walking, having a lemonade, talking about, well, you can't believe what happened last night. Kristen said it's a racist or Republican. And Jax is like, that's not going to stand, brother. That is not going to stand. Not on my watch. Not in Jax's Valley. But yeah, that's the description. Now, just to catch you up on characters, since we are only 3 episodes in, you got Jax and Brittany. They're together. They have their son, Cruz. Now, Jax and Brittany together at this moment, but we know now Brittany has moved out of the marital home. They are currently separated. They are still doing their podcast and endorsements and all of that stuff. So that's wild, but that's what's going on with them, right? And then you have Kristen Doty and Luke Broderick. Kristen Doty met Luke at her friend's wedding, and on the first night they had sex behind a tent. That's what happened. That's what happens at weddings. You know that. Don't roll your eyes, people. And then you have Janet and Jason Caperna. This Jason Caperna, I got to tell you, don't like him because of his abs, but I really do like him because on the Vanderpump Rules after show last week, we talked about this, was that Jason said something that I thought was brilliant in regards to Tom Sandoval, was like, why would I want to be friends with this man if this is how he treats somebody that he says he's loved for 9 years? If he does this to Ariana, why would I want to invest in a friendship where he's done that to somebody that he says he loved? Then why would I want to continue to invest in a person like that? I thought it was the most logical way of putting something. And I was like, damn, that Jason Caperna, that's one to watch. And I made a joke that I said, how many men of the Vanderpump Rules in the Valley cast look directly at the sun during the eclipse today? And I got to tell you, I met every man except for Jason Caperna and maybe Daniel Bucco. Daniel Bucco is another cast member on the Valley. Now, Daniel is married to Nia, and Nia is a beauty queen, and they seem like a really nice couple as well. Nia is the one that, remember, Jax pantsed her husband Daniel in the first episode, and we saw his ding-a-ling, with all the kids around. We didn't get to see it, but it was from the back. Also, watching back that episode, he is wearing a shirt that like goes down to his knees. So I was like, was this pantsing almost planned? Because like, who wears a shirt that goes down that far? If you pants somebody, the guy looked like he was wearing a shirt that went down to the gravel. Made no sense at all. But regardless, Nia was very upset about this. And Brittany was like, that's just Jax. He just boys being boys. Saturdays are for the boys. I can't believe it. Oh, Jax, come in and apologize to Nia. Oh, I'm sorry, Nia. I can't believe I'm just an idiot. I'm just a shit for brains. I'm so sorry, Nia. It's me. It's just Jax. He just got jaxed. So you have them. Then you have Michelle and Jason Lally. And this Jason Lally, like I've said, he is competing with Jax for like douchebag of the show. Like Jax is literally in awe of this Jesse Lally because he was like, I didn't know you could be this kind of douchebag. Like this. I mean, Jax is like getting showed up in the douchebaggery department by Jason Lally. So you have Jason and Michelle Lally. They have a child, but you can tell from the first episode that they seem like they have a white, hot, burning hatred for each other. So that's what I was talking about in the first episode. You can see all these cracks starting to form, and now they are separated, even though somebody told me that they separated right before the premiere of the first episode, but now they're back together. Somebody told me that. I don't know if that's true. It might have come out on one of their podcasts. Everybody has a podcast on the Vanderpump Rules in the Valley, so it's hard to keep up with all of the information that are flying. I'll try to keep you updated as much as I can, folks, but I'm only one man, and I barely have two working eyes right now. So allegedly they're back together. Also, I wanted to say something about Janet and Jason. Really love them, but like I was thinking about this in terms of chaotic and neutral. Like there's certain character archetypes. Neutral character is just a good character that can think clearly, can speak clearly, is not insane, funny, but just like neutral. Just neutral. They can go any which way. They're loosey-goosey, and they usually make a lot of sense. And I think Jason and Janet are neutral. And then you have chaotic neutral. And chaotic neutral, I would put in like Kristen Doty, things like that. And then you have chaotic evil, and I would put Jax in that category. Chaotic neutral, also potentially Brittany. The chaotic, I think, stems from Jax, but I don't think of Brittany as evil. Jax has a lot of evil tendencies, or his quote-unquote character of Jax on these shows has a lot of evil tendencies. But Kristen is chaotic neutral. She's chaotic neutral where she will fuck shit up. It's just within her. There is something in her that she will always she won't think. Her mouth will move before her mind thinks about if she should do it or not. And that's a necessary character that you want in reality television, because they are not thinking about keeping secrets. They are not thinking about what a normal person would think of, like, oh, I don't want to look bad, or I don't want to make my friend who told me this look bad. They're not. They get pushed in a corner. All the secrets come out. All the secrets come out. They just spill. Kristen Doty probably has enough secrets within her to fuel 7 more seasons of The Valley, period. Like, I was thinking about that this week. I was like, man, she's got so many secrets locked up in there. And that's why I think, and I know the cast members are going to hate this, any of the producers, if you're listening right now, let's talk over here. Come over. Okay. This is going to be tough. You got to stop. You can't let them do the podcast, any of them. You got to cut all of them off. Even Lala, you got to. You say it's the podcast or the show. You got to. Or you start your own podcast network and you make it a part of your network so you can control the information. There is too much information. We want to keep every secret that Doty has We want to keep that where we can use it on the show. We don't want her to spill it off on the podcast at some point, just randomly, and then only like a third of the audience that actually watches the Valley even hears that. You don't want to do that. I mean, and that's really what they've set them. It's like a bad precedent. It's almost like when Napster started back in the day with streaming music. It was all of a sudden like, wait, I can just take the album I want online. I can just get LimeWire and just burn a whole album without buying it. Okay, that sounds good. I mean, I'll tell everybody it sounds horrible, but secretly I want to do that. Like, you want to be able to control it. You're just it's too much information getting out there without control, and pretty soon you are diluting the power of the actual show. I think about this with Vanderpump Rules all the time, but especially on a show like The Valley, where you want to keep as much information on the show as possible and not have all the podcasts reveal what happens 6 months after the show wrapped filming. We want to be able to keep those things so that you constantly need new episodes. Am I crazy? Like, I feel like I might be crazy, and this is like a dumb thought, but like, it makes so much sense to me. Like, we've now created all of these things, and I would really be curious what these podcasts make. I mean, Lala's must make like $1 billion because she reveals way too much and really puts herself so at risk by saying, like, doubling and tripling down on some of the dumbest comments I've ever heard. But she said it with her whole chest. So you're like, well, I mean, she seems like she believes it. I guess I should take it as gospel, which, by the way, today, you guys, this sounds like a joke that I'm about to say, but it's not. Lala is revealing her baby's name on an Amazon Live. Yeah, she advertised. That's not a joke. She advertised she will be revealing her baby's name on an Amazon Live. Now, I wish we could reveal it on So Bad It's Good, and that way I could reveal two babies' names before they were ready to go to market, because Sheena always accused me of revealing Summer Moon's name back in the day, and that's why Sheena did not like me at first. Which we've now come to a truce, and but it was, I mean, that horrible time of my life when she thought I was the one that revealed that. Um, God, I'm a grown. This is so sad. And by the way, folks, anybody listening or I realize how sad I am. I realize that. You don't need to tell me. I don't need emails. I realize it's a very sad life. I get that. Okay, moving on. But I just get nervous. Too much information, and like revealing the baby name on an Amazon Live. What do you get for that? Like, how much money does she get? Like Amazon Prime for life? I just feel like what you just literally was like ranting and raving about the opportunities that Ariana gets, and then all of a sudden you're selling your baby's name on an Amazon Live. I hope you're getting top dollar for that. But I just get worried about all of the podcasts, and I get worried about it with the Valley as well. Like, I think interviews are fine, but you've got to really keep that shit tight, because you don't want, I don't know. I just, it's a lot for these production companies, I imagine, to keep track of what information is revealed where, because these people are all holding secrets. I mean, Schwartz kept that secret of making out with Sheena in Vegas for like 11 years. I mean, how many secrets are we holding still? I'm still telling you, I think Schwartz and Lala has made out at some point. I really do. Or they're going to make out in the future. I have a very sixth sense, but we'll talk about that on Vanderpump Rules Thursday. Okay. Okay. It's good to talk to you guys. I needed this. I needed to exercise these demons after a bunch of days in Ohio dealing with grandma stuff. So thanks for being here. Okay. So that's the 43 minutes in. That's the title of the episode. Let's get going. I have to keep taking breaks because my eyes are dilated, so it's hard to stare at the stupid computer screen. Anyways, okay. So we open up season 1, episode 3 of The Valley. And I got to tell you, the music of The Valley is like, what in the easy listening hell do we have here? Literally, this song is straight out of like K-Jazz. It's like, what it's like, I'll show you what I want to do. We're dancing in the daylight. We can do it all night. And then Jax is like, hey, you want to get some lemonade, babe? Because they're at a farmer's market in the Valley. They're pushing around crews. He's like, hey, we got to get some lemonade on a hot day in the Valley. She's like, that sounds good. I'd like some too, Jax. And so they're just walking around. This easy listening is playing in the background. They get 2 big old lemonades. And we see that Sherry, Brittany's mom, is there, and it's $24 for 3 lemonades. And Brittany's like, oh, we ain't in Kentucky no more, mama. And she's like, I guess not, Brittany. I guess not. We are not. And Cruz is just like passed out or he's pretending to sleep. You can tell he's like, I do not like these cameras. I do not approve of my parents doing this. I was told when I came into this world, we were done with reality television. Cruz is a little man. I like Cruz. Cruz is a good kid. You can tell. So Brittany's like, Mom, take him for a little bit while I have a conversation about the past episode with Jax. How did last night go, Jax? And Jax is like, well, pretty effed up, Brittany. I got to tell you. So I told you I invited Alex, Doty's ex. I talked to Luke when he got there, and Luke was like, why would I give this guy a second chance? Why would I want to be friends with the ex of my girlfriends? Which is like, no shit. We all knew that Luke would say that. Any normal living person would say that, and Jax knows that as well. But Jax is like, you're about to get Jaxed, Luke. Yeah, Luke, hey, let me introduce myself. My name is Jax Taylor. You are about to feel the force of Jax Taylor. I will invite Kristen's ex in here, Alex. I mean, that was ridiculous. And I'm so mad that we didn't get to see more from that night. Like last week's episode ended with that and ended with Doty saying that Michelle Lally was a racist and a Republican, and we didn't really get to see those things happen. We just get to hear about it. And it's always like, show us, don't tell us. So we're playing that catch-up game, and Brittany's like, well, that sounds crazy. Let me tell you about my night. Kristen said, you're talking to Jasmine and Kristen said, you're talking to Jasmine and Zach. Yeah, that's what's going on over there. I feel like I was in the middle, Jack. I'm trying to take up for you, and it blew up. And Kristen was like, are you fucking kidding me? I don't want my ex-boyfriends around me or my fucking family. What is so difficult for everyone to fucking understand? Doty said. Like it turned into a whole thing, Jax. Jax being malicious, Kristen said. And I said, are you not stirring shit up? Come on, Kristen. Kristen started bringing up that Janet told Jasmine Michelle was racist and Republican and all this crap. And we flash back to Doty going, what am I stirring up? The truth that Janet told you Michelle is like probably a Republican, so she's probably racist? This is the shit that Janet was saying, Kristen says. And Jasmine is like, I swear to God, look at me. Jasmine says, you are not fucking saying that Janet told me that she was racist. And Kristen's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, right? Kristen's like, I've been here 30 million times in my past. Kristen is so used to this shit. She's like, I was slapped by Stassi on an episode. You think anybody getting in my face, coming down on what I say, you think this even raises my pulse at all? Give me a break. Like, welcome to the Valley. I've been here many, many seasons. And Kristen's like, this is what Zach told me, you guys. And Zach, we see a flashback of Zach Wickham, who, by the way, his hair, if you watch it throughout this episode, it gets lower and lower. I think it eventually is going to cover his eyes because it's like this hair helmet. Somebody compared it to like a Lego hair piece last week, and I thought that was amazing. But I just feel like it gets lower and lower, and eventually it's going to cover his whole face. But anyways, we see Zach in like a clip from like a scene that we didn't see. He's like, I never said that. I never said that. He's very passionate. And I'm like, I love this, but like, let me see the actual scene without you editing it together. I never said that. So I love this. It's just action right out of the gate. So Jackson's like, listen, that's not going to fly. I'm wondering how today Michelle's going to go after she brought that up at home about her when she told Jesse. I'm wondering how that goes. I love that Jackson's like, that's not going to fly. Not on my show. Not on the Valley. That's not going to fly. The funny thing is, I bet Jax is Republican. I bet half of this cast are Republicans. So I love everybody getting up in arms about the Republican. Like, she's like, get this. Michelle's a libertarian. Michelle's voting for RFK. Oh my God, we're going into an election season. We don't even get the Valley theme song. We just have the thing that pops up going, Bravos, the Valley in blue lettering. I feel like that's a mistake as well. You got to hit us with that theme song to get us used to it, or just get a better theme song. Like, I feel like the Valley theme song isn't hitting, and I want something that people can remember. I want a raise your glass like we have with Vanderpump Rules. We probably will never get that, and it's very sad. Anyways, we open up, and we are in Jesse and Michelle Lally's place. Remember, they don't live in the Valley. They live by Chateau Marmont, right over the hill. So Jesse thinks he's automatically better than everybody that lives in the Valley. because of his place. So Michelle, they're in the kitchen, and Michelle looks just shell-shocked about these accusations of being a double R, Republican and racist. And Michelle is relating to Jesse. He's like, it is the first time in my life I've ever heard my name associated with these words. And she said, Janet said, Michelle is a racist and a Republican. And Jason's like, she said a racist and a Republican? Yeah, I'm still shocked, to be honest with you. I'm completely shocked. What the fuck is wrong with her? Jason says. And then we see Isabella, 3 years old, is in the kitchen area with them while their dad just keeps like slurring out the F word like it's like an 80s deaf comedy jam. Like Isabella's like, fuck yeah, daddy, woo! And it's like, oh shit, I'm sorry, Isabella. We cannot say those words, Isabella. Do you, and Isabella's like, don't say that, daddy. And Michelle's like, stop saying that word. I'm sorry, Michelle, it's in my vocabulary. She's going to start saying that. And he's like, we don't say that, do we, Isabella? When you say it, it's funny. When I say it, it's wrong. So Michelle's like, I'm really upset because Janet wouldn't say that or she wouldn't be my friend. And hello, I'm the one that's the first generation Mexican, first generation Persian. I was just so shocked and confused by the whole thing. Well, you should call Janet and be like, did you fucking say this? And she's like, okay. And then FaceTimes Janet right there. FaceTime, which, by the way, this is just so funny in so many ways because welcome to reality television. Like hey, get ready. You think it's bad to be called a racist and Republican. Wait till you get in something where your husband's cheating on you with one of your cast members. This is not like a kumbaya show. This is we're potentially going to ruin your life and the life of your children. And if you need historical context, let me show you seasons 1 through 11 of Vanderpump Rules. Like, that's what I love anybody signing up for this going like, well, this will be a fun little gig. No, it's not Survivor. Like, this is like Survivor, but with your life. This isn't, we'll send you for an island and like have like fun challenges where you throw out your knee. No, we're going to ruin your family on the Valley. So they call Janet on FaceTime. Janet, remember, is like fully pregnant and she doesn't need this stress either. Janet picks right up on FaceTime like, hey girl, what's going on? Remember, Janet couldn't be at the party because she wasn't feeling well. And Michelle's like, I have a super important question for you. And I want you to be completely honest about it. Okay. She's like, you got it. Yeah. Kristen said that you said that I'm racist and a Republican. And Janet's like, Zoinks? What? Are you kidding me? Okay, that's complete bullshit. To throw around a huge accusation like that, I need to have a conversation with Kristen because that makes me like furious with her. Like, that word in your name has never come out of my mouth in the same sentence. In a talking head, Janet says, Kristen and I have been close for years. And about a year ago, I had to put up a boundary with Kristen because her relationship with Alex, her ex-boyfriend, was so up and down and back and forth that it was making my head spin. And as soon as I put up a boundary with Kristen, she didn't like that. And it feels like anytime she has the opportunity to throw me under the bus, she does. Now, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's what I think this show works, is because we do have real relationships that have been going on for years. Janet has known Dodie for years. They have this whole relationship. But this is also what I'm talking about. Janet's not dumb. Janet knows where the bodies are buried, but Janet is neutral, where she will do things for the benefit of her mental health and say, you're a little too crazy Kristen for me right now. I got to back off of this relationship with you. And I think that I would not mess with, because Kristen will get right up in your face and potentially like throw a sledgehammer at you. Janet, she works behind the scenes. Janet, I would not fuck with either. She works behind the scenes. Janet has, I think Janet's kind of brilliant in a way. And I think that'll probably come out more and more and by the way, she's, like I said, fully pregnant. So you got to imagine the hormones are off the roof. I'm shocked Janet didn't kill anybody this season, but we're only 3 episodes in. That would be a very special episode of The Valley. Janet makes Zach jump off a 6-story building. Anyways, in the FaceTime, Janet's like, this is a whole new low, even for Kristen Dodie. And Michelle's like, well, it's interesting she's decided to say that and say you when you're the only person not there that night. And she's like, well, wait until her sick pregnant friend isn't around to throw around a fake accusation like that. Fuck her. And by the way, Janet's throwing around the fuck word too. And Isabella, the 3-year-old daughter, is right there as well. I'm telling you, this 3-year-old is going to go to preschool and be like, give me the fucking crowns, you fucking teacher weirdo. I do not want to have nap time. I'm fucking up. Let's fucking go. I want to color something. Anyways, a lot of cursing. That's what happens in the valley. And Michelle's like, well, listen, it's just crazy because they were also talking about Alex showing up to the guys' night, where Luke was. And so she was upset about that. And that just triggered Kristen, I think. And she immediately snapped. And Janet's like, oh, and then immediately threw this out there. That is very typical Kristen. And it's what I think is she does not want Alex's side of their breakup shared, especially with Luke. In a talking head, Janet says, Kristen's opinion on Alex, her ex-boyfriend, changed pretty quickly as soon as she met Luke. She seemed to think that, he's a narcissist. He was horrible. All of their relationship issues were his fault. But I'm like, I've seen you do things in that relationship that were wrong. And I've heard you tell me you made a huge mistake or you did something that you shouldn't do to Alex. So when she kind of changed her narrative to Alex as the villain and she's the victim, it made me look and go like, well, we all know that's not true. So back in this scene, Janet goes, I think as soon as she heard that the guys were with Alex and without her, she pulled something insane out of her ass. The double R's, racist and Republican. I feel like you and I, Michelle, are both collateral damage on that. And that's like really, really not cool. And Michelle's like, yeah, well, just so we're clear, not racist and Republican. Michelle in a talking head says, I've known Kristen for a couple of years. She had problems with her ex-boyfriends. I had problems with Jesse and we were kind of there for each other. So Kristen's one of my closest friends. I think I was just overwhelmed and I didn't say anything, she tells Janet, and I'm mad at myself for not saying something. In the talking head, she says, I know a lot of people who do not like Kristen and who are not nice to her, but I have been her friend and this is how she repays me? The double R's? And then she's like, feel better, Janet. We'll talk soon. Bye. That's just a normal conversation in the valley. Anyways, okay. Not racist and Republican. Have a good day. How's the baby? Give it a pat for me. It's wild. And also just the relationships of like, Kristen used to complain about her ex-boyfriend with me, and I would complain about my current husband with her. I love it. The real relationships are great. But also there's that common thing where people in relationships, right? When we break up, there is that need, like somebody's got to be the villain, somebody's got to be the good guy, and life is just never that simple. We're all like fucked up on both sides. I mean, sometimes there's obvious wrong. Sometimes it's like, oh, that's really, really bad. Like I think Sandoval in this, even though some of you dorks want to make it into Ariana's fault of like, well, she wasn't very nice. She the pins and batteries. But it is weird. Like sometimes those things that we try to rewrite the history of a relationship, that just isn't the case. And I like people that can go like, yo, I love you, but that's not actually the way it went down. But we do try to rewrite things. And also, if you're in a new relationship, you don't want your current partner to think that you are potentially at fault for something. Even though they might understand, you want to make yourself look the best possible way you can. And if you've lost love or, made yourself lose love, there's still a lot of hurt associated with all of that. So I could see where Kristen would try to, I don't know. Relationships are so tough. I wonder if her ex-boyfriend's going to be on camera anymore this season. Because I just feel like we missed out on a scene between Luke and Alex of like, because Luke's that quiet type of like, you better get out of my face right now. That's one strike right there, Alex. I don't like anything that you've done to my current partner, Kristen Doty. And you've seen Crazy Kristen. Well, you're about to see Crazy Luke. Do you know I have an axe? Yeah, I've got tons of axes. I'm a woodsman. So Michelle gets off the phone. We've cleared it up. But also, the other thing I was thinking about this, we still don't fully know what conversation happened. I think there is a world in which Janet, I was thinking about this, like how we're all on like text threads and stuff, and you throw out, we don't provide any context or like, the conversations you have over text or phone with friends, you'll throw out a lot of crazy shit. You're like, oh, I bet that person's a rebel. Oh, I bet that person was at January 6th. Oh, I bet, like you're obviously joking. There could be a world in which a conversation was being had where it was like, oh, I bet, like in a joking fashion. And then that got like, then Zach told like the game of telephone where it then became like an accusation instead of just a stupid joke. Instead of like, oh, well, let's see where they're at on January 6th, like those could just be stupid jokes. Something was said somewhere, but I also don't think Janet would like like just flat out say that. And if she did say that, I think she would say it with her whole chest and she would have something to back it up. And she wouldn't want to be friends with somebody that she felt wasn't aligning with her specific values, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're back in the scene, and Jesse Lowley's like, what does being Republican have to do with it? And Michelle's like, I'm not a Republican, which, by the way, even if I am, who gives a fuck, right? And then Mommy said the curse word, and Isabella's like, Mommy. It's like, Mommy said she can control herself in front of Isabella, but she can't because she's stupid and I hate being married to her. Right, Isabella? We cut from that scene. We have some more soft jam music. Feel the rhythm down to my toes, yeah. We're at Kristen's apartment, and Kristen's like, I am so ready to have a new space. And Luke's like, let's fill up a couple more boxes and move them over there, okay? Because they're moving to an apartment in the same apartment building, which is so nice. And then Kristen's like, I can't wait to have the new space. And Luke's like, yeah, to have sex in the bed. We see Kristen's new apartment just down the hall. It looks good. It looks like a nice apartment. They go into the new apartment, and she's like, moving into this apartment with Luke. Yeah, it's an apartment, but it's a total upgrade. For an extra $73 a month, I get a nice bigger unit. There's room to play, she says. I mean, we have an entire drawer of sex toys. Okay, I don't need. Kristen's like, we have an entire room of sex toys. We literally have one of those swings. We've mounted it to a wall. Luke's very handy. It's very structurally safe. Even if there's an earthquake, I'll still be able to swing in a sex swinging position. I don't need to know, honestly. Like at this point, I watched Vanderpump Rules for so many years that I do consider these people my weird, fucked up family. And I don't need to hear. I sometimes will be like, no, don't talk about it. I don't want to hear about girls with sex toys, please. No, 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 no. Oh God, can you imagine? Luke's like, put a bigger one in my butt, please. Sorry. So anyways, and I also love that for an extra $73 a month, that's so the Valley. That's so like, it's so, because I think we're all like, $73 a month. I could swing that. Like, I like that we're not dealing with like modern farmhouses. Like, we're not in the Sandoval Ariana fighting about a house. We're just moving to a bigger apartment for $73 a month. That's doable. I feel like I don't have to worry about where Kristen's, like, I feel like Kristen can swing an extra $73 a month. I love that, you know? So they're moving all this stuff, and she's talking about the sex toys, and it's very cutesy. They're in an empty apartment, and she's just talking to Luke, you know. So Kristen's talking to Luke about some knobs to put up there. I don't know if it's to put like in a sexual position or just on a cabinet, or he's like, what about these knobs? And Luke's like, whatever makes you happy, honey. Whatever makes you happy. And then Kristen's like, well, what would make me happy is Jax not pulling a fucking Jax last night. I mean, literally, we just had this talk where I said, you know, I don't care if you're friends with my ex-boyfriend, just please don't bring him around me and don't bring him around like Luke or my family. We cut back to last week's episode 3 days ago where Jax is like, don't you understand? I'm friends with your ex and I'm between two friends who don't get along. You know, you have a little bit more seniority, Kristen. And Luke's like, the only saving grace of the night is he pulled me aside first. Like I wouldn't have been, it would have been a total blindside otherwise and extra shitty. And Kristen's like, I was so fucking upset when Brittany told me. I felt like I was backed into a corner, Luke, and I just fucking reacted. And I spit out the double R in a talking head. She's like, for Jax to do that is fucking insane. Jax promised me he wasn't going to pull this shit. So if he's going to pull shit like that, I'm going to start calling people out on their bullshit. I love the fact that Michelle has nothing to do with Jax. Like, if Jax goes crazy and does anything to harm me or my family, I will throw other people under the bus who are not Jax. I will not harm Jax in any way. I will harm other cast members. That's what I will do. Yeah, that's what you get, Jax. Everybody's going to suffer except for you. And then Kristen's like, and then, Luke, I brought up what Zach had told us, about the double R. And we flash back to that about Zach, Janet talked shit about you, saying that Michelle is probably, and Jasmine's like, are you kidding me? Kristen's like, before production started, there's a lot of shit talk going on within our group. Janet was trying to start a bunch of shit, insinuating that Michelle could be homophobic, racist. And then last night, Zach fully denied it, Luke. And they're talking head, she's like, everyone's going to talk about this behind closed doors. And then filming starts. The cameras are up. Okay, we're all going to pretend it didn't happen. Haha, not Kristen Doty. Zach was upset that I spoke about things that he told me in confidence. But he knows better when it's a Janet thing. Like, I know in his deep down Zach reality, he wanted me to light a fire. I wonder if Zach's like, I don't definitely do not want you to light a fire. I'd be like, no, no fire. I am allergic to fires. Please. I love that Doty's like, deep down, he wanted to be like, nobody deep down wants you to reveal something that you were asked to not reveal. I also think this is the perfect blend of bringing up the reality of like, before cameras were brought up, I want to hear more. I want people, I've always argued this over the last 4 years of, we're not dumb. We are a sophisticated audience. We realize they realize they're being filmed. Let's talk about it. I think this is the perfect blend. I like the blending of this. So Dodie, by the way, she is a martyr. She is the Mother Teresa of reality television, where she will light herself on fire for the betterment of all the lepers that she is surrounding. She's a saint, Saint Dodie. Anyways, like, I feel awful for bringing Michelle into this bullshit that Janet started. She's like, I feel like I upset Michelle by saying that. Yes, you did. You definitely did. Luke's like, the best thing to do right now is when someone tells you something, just put it in your back pocket. Just keep it back there. It doesn't need to be weaponized. Just like, I didn't mean to weaponize it. No, I know. That is what I did though, didn't I? So that's really the whole, that's the whole thing, Christian. And she's like, do I look like a $2 hooker with mascara under my eyes? And Luca's like, at least a $20,000 hooker. And she's like, that's so sweet, baby. Oh, let's go have sex with our drawer of sex toys. I love that he's like, keep it in your back pocket. Kristen Doty's back pocket, it makes her look like she has the biggest BBL ever, because her ass cheeks are just carrying around some of the darkest secrets of everybody on that cast of The Valley. And what I need to do is I need to get a hold on those jeans and just get all the secrets, and then I'll just reveal them on So Bad It's Good week after week. Anyways, she's like, you make me feel better. And he's like, okay. We come back from commercial and we have Daniel and Nia. And this is a very this is a good couple, man. They have 3 kids. They're dealing with like 2 newborn twins, and their scene so far alone really just has to do with milk production. Daniel's like, how much milk do we currently have on hand? Have you pumped enough from the teat? How much teat milk? We need more teat milk. It is a milk teat production factory at their apartment in the Valley. But that's so far, their solo scenes are about that. And it's just about like their bottle schedules. I always feel like when we get to their scenes, I need to write down their schedule just so they don't forget. But it just, he constantly reminds us how little sleep he's getting. He's like, I haven't slept in a month and a half. I haven't slept. And he's like, no, but for real, how much milk? And they open the freezer. I'm trying to look in there to see how much milk. She says post Miss USA, because she was Miss USA, she's very blessed to make appearances, work with other people, do social media work, partners with brands. So she'll go and do these trips and, make some money that way, which is great. So they're just packing for her trip. Milk. It's really not, it's just a real couple to me, which I think is nice. I think it's nice to have that in between like the Dodie revealing R&R secrets. But anyways, they talk about before kids, they had all these amazing vacations before they had kids, but it's like, well, at least you had that. But I think this is a couple that works, and I like watching them, and I'm excited to see them more, because I think you need that voice of reason. My big thing with Daniel though is like, how did he become such good friends with Jax, and how do you constantly make apologies for somebody else's bad behavior? That's the thing that fascinates me. Anyways, we cut on over to Jax's Saloon, guys. He's a bar owner now in Studio City. And he's one of those guys that rides one of those fancy golf carts. And I got to tell you, like, that's fine around the golf places and small towns. But man, I was just on Ventura Boulevard today. It's like a busy, like, Jax is riding around like a fancy golf cart. And he's trying to park on Ventura Boulevard. Dude, like, that's not, no bueno, man. Like, what's going on? I've lived in the Valley for like that would upset me just to see Jax cruising around in this thing. He pulls up, and he's, trying to get into these. Like, I feel like Austin Powers trying to park this thing. Oh, behave. All right. Do I make you Randy? I'm Jax. He comes in. He's like, what's up, guys? What's up, business partners? What do you guys think about that wall over there? Brutal, honest opinion. And he's like, I think it needs to pop a little bit more. A little more 3-dimensional, but it's fine. A little more 3-dimensional. What are you talking about, Jax? It's a wall. It's already fucking 3-dimensional. What are you like? It's like, yeah, what are you, I was picturing more wood. I was picturing a cleaner sir. I don't know. I was picturing stuff. He's that guy that comes in when he hasn't really done a lot of work, and he's like, "Hey, let me call a meeting, huh? What do we think about walls? Wait, what? Do you like lights? Do you think we need lights in here?" By the way, I like Jax's Studio City. I liked it. Like I said, the prices were a little higher than I wanted to be, and there was only one bathroom, and I thought that was weird. Like, if you are somebody that needs a bathroom when you go out, maybe stay home. But also, if you do, just also stay. Don't plan on using one at Jax's Studio City. Anyways, Jax is in there just talking shop with the boys, his business partners. He's like, okay, where are we at? What's going on? And the guys are like, we have interviews lined up for today. We need some good workers, which is a really interesting business plan. Like, we need good. Nobody's ever thought of that. We need good workers. Lisa Vanderpump's like, oh, I never knew. Good workers. That's what we should be trying to do. I can't believe we never hired a good worker. So I can't believe that. Jackson, the talking head's like, I've been a bartender the majority of my life. I had some real crazy years at Sir. We have a flashback of all of those like days when he's like, I'm hungover. He's like, I'm not muddling things today. I'm not making a mojito. I'm very fortunate to where I don't have to put up a bunch of money. I have 3 partners that are footing the bill. I personally haven't invested anything, which is truly amazing. That's the way to do it. He's like, but that's kind of typical Jax, right? Have everybody else have Brittany take care of your life, have your business partners take care of the bills, and then just throw in things like, I think it needs to be a little more 3-dimensional, huh? I was picturing something that pops a little more. So anyways, they're interviewing like bartenders and servers. We meet Stephanie R., an interviewee. She comes in. She's like, I brought in a copy of my resume, 3 letters of recommendation, as well as my safe serve. I am tip certified and ABC if needed. And he's like, to be honest, bars destroy marriages. When Tom and Tom opened their bar, well, I knew immediately they weren't involving their significant others. I saw all the problems that they went through, and I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have any of those problems. I had to involve my wife. I love these. Like, I had to involve my wife. She's not here today. I wouldn't even let her fucking touch foot in this place when I have hot ladies coming in that I might potentially hire. Are you fucking kidding me? Anyways, but she's like, yeah, he says like, she's not here today. And then this girl walks in, and they make it very obvious that she is not wearing a bra. And do you know those, they're the nipples? You can kind of see like a little, like the nipple area. So I know it's a family show, so I want to be very quiet about that. But this girl walks in and Jax is like, Zoinks! Oh, you're about to get jaxed. Jax is like, hey, what's going on? How are you? And she's like, yeah. He's like, I think I should take care of hiring the staff. This Miranda girl comes in, and you can tell Jax is just flustered. He's like, hey, I'm Jax. This gal decided not to wear a bra. She's the kind of girl that would have a child out of wedlock. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you gotta keep those puppies in, man. I am a hot-blooded male. You don't wear a bra around me. That gives me temptation. That's on you. If I cheat on my wife with you, that's your fault, buddy. You didn't patch those things up. You needed an over-the-shoulder boulder holder. That's not old Jax Taylor. I'll tell you that right now. Anyways, Jax is like, hey, are you an actor? She's like, no. He's like, okay. Sorry, I had to ask that question. He's like, he's like, did we hire her? He lights up around people with no bras. Anyways, another girl comes in, Stephanie, and she has tattoos, everything. She's like, I've been bartending for about 3 years now. I love it. I actually worked in the medical field for 15 years before this. He's like, okay, cool. That's great. I can save your life and give you a good time. And Jax is like, I bet you could. My wife. He's like, she's got the look. She's got the tattoos, dark hair. And then they're like, we want to get you behind the bar, see what it looks like for you to make drinks. She's got that vibe where she just doesn't put up with shit from anyone. She's exactly what I'm looking for. Jackson's like, let's do a couple of scenarios. Say I drop a bunch of change, right? Hey, will you grab it for me while I get behind you? Hey, dropped a quarter, huh? Little trick I learned at Sir. Yeah. Okay. Here's another one. Let's do a scenario. I'm your boss, right? Okay. Now I'm married with a kid, right? Okay. I'm your boss, married with a kid. You're my employer, right? Late at night. It's just us. I've turned on a little lover boy on the stereo. Okay. I'm looking good. This is just a scenario, right? I have the creepy mustache goatee thing going. Also, I come up to you, I'm like, hey, let's count those drawers out at the end of the night, right? And what do you do? I let you count. Nope, nope, nope. You put your hand on my chest. Yep, you put your hand on my chest and you say, Jax Taylor, my God, you look good today. No, that's the guy. Jax Taylor is a hey, I'm no Peter Madrigal. You're going to count yourself out at the end of the night, toots. All I got. The uniform is tattoos and a bra, girl. That's Jackson Studio City. Anyways, she makes a lemon drop. They all seem like, oh my God, it's the best lemon drop I ever had. He's like, you're hired. This is perfect. Amazing. Okay. So we go over from Jackson Studio City. I feel glorious. And Brittany's walking to this place called Horchateria. And she's like, I want to do a churro and a little ice cream drink. She's at this place, but if you look at the at the little places, they have that little refrigerator section at the front. There's nothing in, like, there's no products in there. Like, I'm like, is Horchateria like not even a real place, or is it not open? They had no products in the thing to buy. But anyway, she's like, okay, I'm just here to meet somebody, a cast member. She's like, it is hot in the valley. And Dodie walks up. She's like, look at those legs. And Kristen's like, it is so hot. I know. You look cute. Oh, you look cute. I've never been over here to Horchateria. I took an Uber over here because I hate to drive. And then they, eat the little churro things. How are you feeling, Kristen? She's like, overwhelmed. Well, the girls' night, it kind of took a bad turn with the R&R. So Janet is really, really pissed off right now. And Kristen's like, at you. At who? At you. So, Kristen's like, at who? And Brittany's like, at you. At you, girl. Are you kidding me? Well, because you told her that you basically said that Michelle was a racist. And Dodie's like, I didn't say that. Of me, of all people, really, you think this is a topic that I want to talk about ever? That was my whole point. I was like, why is Kristen ever bringing this up? No shit, Kristen says. In a talking head, she's like, it really sucks to have a word that is so hurtful even be affiliated with your name. But I repeated what was told to me, something that Janet said. So why the fuck is everybody mad at me? I mean, so they bring the point up, and we can talk about this a little bit because it's actually been in the news in this last week, is Faith Stowers. That's why Kristen and Stassi were let go from Vanderpump Rules because of racist remarks geared towards Faith in the year, I believe, was it 2020 or 2019? And it is interesting. And this is why I think Kristen she just reacts. And when I saw Kristen at Jax's a couple of weeks ago, I told you guys that she mentioned, she was like, oh my God, in an upcoming episode, they bring up why I got fired from Vanderpump Rules. And I thought it was much later in the season. I didn't realize it was this episode. It was this soon. And I think, I don't know. I think this was a hard lesson for Kristen to learn. And I hope she has learned this lesson. Now, Faith, now this seems like it's going to be a part of the Reality Reckoning lawsuit, or I think, that's in the planning stages, and they're using the same lawyers now. Again, Mark Garagos and is it Brian Friedman, who now represents Brandy Glanville, Bethany Frankel, Rachel Levis. All of these people are like the Avengers of suing Bravo. And Faith has now added her name to the list. And, what a time to do that, because this week's episode involves some of this. And I hope we get even more into it in tomorrow night's episode of The Valley. And I'm sure you guys know about the comments that were made by her and Stassi and what happened. Now, I had Faith on So Bad It's Good the first year I remember it was during the pandemic. And it was, I have to go back and listen to that episode because it's a really, my heart goes out to Faith for having to experience what she's had to experience. And as a white dude, I don't have I know how I feel about it, but it's not something that I've had to go through, but it is something that I feel should be talked about. It. Sometimes I feel like these shows sometimes don't have the language in which to talk about it properly. And it's a really delicate conversation that I don't think we should shy away from. And I do think Kristen paid an obvious price for this, but it was a price that she paid based on her own actions. I remember Kristen even on this podcast reminding, she had that book that got released right around the time he's just not, is it, he's just, oh, he's, well, I have the book right over here on my bookshelf. He's Making You Crazy. And that got optioned to become a movie. No joke. And she lost that deal. She lost Vanderpump Rules. There were consequences to her actions. And you really hope that has taught Kristen a lesson. But it is interesting for her to throw that out there as a conversation point when she comes from the background that she does. So I do hope that there is an honest conversation about this. And I wish, rather than suing, I wish Faith could actually come back on the show and have these conversations about this. I think we all make horrific mistakes in our life. I have made so many mistakes in my life. And the best you can do is learn from it, but you will pay sometimes a really dear price for these things. But I think part of it is trying to work through it, trying to learn, trying to find out, if you do have unconscious bias towards people, if there are things that you can do to make yourself a better person and to strive to do that. But sometimes these are really hard conversations to have on a reality show, especially in the Vanderpump Rules universe, because it's so usually egocentric, me-centric. There's a level of narcissism with all reality shows that doesn't take too kindly to having these deep conversations. But I know the audience can handle that. Like I say always, it's a very sophisticated audience. I've learned more from reality television than sometimes I've learned in actual real life. I mean, that's been a do's and don'ts list that are a mile long. But I do find that fascinating that Kristen levied that accusation out there, knowing where she has come from in her past with it, and especially when it comes to TV. And I do wonder how, of course, I wonder how Faith is doing, but I also wonder how Kristen is doing. That if she knew this was going to ignite again, if she knew that Faith, this was like on the precipice of happening, that there was going to be potentially another lawsuit, because Faith tried to sue, I believe, in 2020, and it did not go anywhere. But now I think with Mark Garagos and like the reality reckoning of it all, they potentially are footing the bill to make this go. So I'm curious if, like with anything Bethany Frankel is associated with, if they are looking for a payday or if they're actually looking to make reality shows better. And so far, I don't have the answer to that. It's an interesting conversation that I think deserves to be had, of course. But I just sometimes wonder, are these people, the reality reckoning, looking for a payday, or are they looking to actually build a better boat? Also, if you want to know more about Faith and her story from her own mouth, I believe she has a new podcast out. I think it is behind a paywall, but I'm sure you can find probably a Reddit thread or, transcripts of what she talks about. Maybe I'll talk about more of that at the Pop Culture Roundup next week. Anyway, so back in this scene, Dodie just doesn't understand why anybody's mad at her for any of this. She's like, I fell back into a corner, Brittany. I fucking spat out shit that wasn't my place to say, especially in the space we were in. I'm very glad you're owning up to that. I noticed. I'm very glad. She's like, no shit, of course. I don't think Kristen does anything on purpose to hurt people. She just does things sometimes. She's a lot like Jackson that way. What if we find out? What if we find out that like Jackson and Dodie truly are like twins separated at birth? It's kind of like Luke and Leia from Star Wars. I felt you. I felt you were my sister all. Aren't they both from Michigan? Oh my God, you're my sister. I always tell people we have sister brother vibes, but they never believe us. Oh my God, so sorry. Brittany's like, I don't know if Jana is actually the one who is saying this stuff, or if something was said or Kristen exaggerated it, because that's what Jax would do. I don't know. Kristen's like, this Zach stuff is really pissing me off. Well, you got to talk to him about this stuff because it is getting crazy. It's getting dumpster fire really fast. So now they call Zach. She's like, you're on speaker, Zach. Hi, honey. I'm wildly confused. Why you are denying the stuff that you told me? What part are we referring to? Janet told Jasmine that Michelle Lally being a Republican and that she should be careful. The Republican thing was said, but that does not mean racism. I never said that. And Doty's like, why would I use the fucking R word, Zach? It's what you said to me. And so don't throw me under the bus. Oh my God, Kristen, you're the bus driver. You're the one driving over all the dead bodies. You're twisting everything, Zach says. Tin roof rusted. I'm not saying there wasn't something that happened, but what you did was you took something that was very simple, Kristen, that I was talking about behind the scenes because I was like, oh, that's weird. You don't just blurt out stuff like that and accuse somebody of like saying something that's racist like that. And Doty's like, oh, Kristen just cannot keep a secret to save her life, Zach says in a talking head. Like, even when I'm telling her, don't tell this person because you're my friend and I want you to know, but I need you to keep it to yourself. She has never once been able to keep a secret. Now, in that part, I kind of think that, Zach, that's on you, brother. If you literally keep doing this to Kristen and she keeps throwing you under the bus, stop telling her stuff. Welcome to the valley, Zach. You cannot hide under those bangs. If Kristen keeps doing that, why do you keep telling her? I hate to like put the onus back on you, but help her help herself. Kristen will not put herself in these situations, and you won't get yourself in these situations. If you gotta tell, call me, call somebody else, but don't tell Kristen because Kristen keeps it in that back pocket of hers, and it just is going to explode. Like seriously, this is why the show works though. So Brittany's like, okay, well, it was brought up at the party, and that's why everybody's so mad. Even though, and Kristen's like, well, rather than it being the point that everybody was talking a bunch of shit and bringing it to my front door, I was the only one to say it out loud. We flash back to that night 2 days ago, and Doty is talking privately with Zach and going, I know 2 days ago that Janet said this to, am I wrong? And Zach's like, you are not wrong, girl. And Brittany's like, well, you got to take accountability for that. And we got to move forward from here on out. All right. I love you, honey. We'll call you later, Zach. So they're like, ooh, tough stuff. Kristen's like, the part that I took in this was repeating it in front of everybody. And Brittany's like, I'm glad you noticed that. That's called growth in the valley. And Kristen's like, well, this is sitting inside of me, really bothering me. I had to get it out. Brittany's like, I feel a lot of responsibility to keep this group together. I love everybody. I don't want us to have these issues. And Doty's like, something about Summers, man, makes me crazy. Something about Summers in the valley. Oh my gosh, double R's, Republican and racist. That's what it's all about. But I love that we can't trust Kristen, but at the same time, we need Kristen in the mix. We need her in the mix because she's going to make things messy. And then you put everybody else on their heels and then they react in these crazy ways. And I think it is so wild that Brittany's like, you're just like Jax. You make up stuff. You embellish stuff. You just flat out lie. I love you so much. Both of y'all. You crazy. I love you. Oh, poor Brittany, man. I mean, really, like, I wonder what her stress levels are like. Her cortisol levels got to be through the roof. Okay, so now we're at Jesse and Michelle Lally. They are doing like a therapist session, like kind of marriage counseling. And their therapist or their counselor comes to them. How do you like that? No more Zoom, no more going to them. They got it. So the guy comes to them. Scott, he's a life coach. He's not a therapist. He's a life coach. Amazing. Jesse's like, hey, man, how you doing? How are you doing? I'm a little tired, obviously, life coach. And they sit down in the living room. And the guy's like, okay, how are we functioning together, guys? And Jesse's like, not good. In a talking head, he's like, our marriage counselor is not a therapist. He's more of a coach. And his goal is to make us the best version of ourselves. And if the best version of ourselves are in love with each other, then our marriage will survive, get better. And Michelle's like, Scott worked on our friend's marriage that really improved and helped. Jesse's like, we've spoken to him on the phone. We've never met him in person. We're going to get into the depths of our relationship and how to move forward, which is always great. And we're going to add cameras into the mix. That is always a very healthy thing. We have a child and we're going to throw cameras into this to show the world our deep, dark, rooted, seated issues that I hate my wife and my wife hates me. Anyways, here's our life coach. So the life coach is like, do you feel, is there anything that came up? Anything that you want to revisit, you guys? And Jesse's like, it's just constant conflict all of the time. We flash back to all of the things that like, come on, too much milk in my coffee, Michelle. Come on, Michelle. It's too milky. What are your needs in this relationship that aren't being met? Michelle. And Michelle's like, a lot of needs are not being met. Pause. And Jesse's like, what? A lot of needs. I felt very lonely for a very long time. Raising a child can be very lonely when you're not interacting with adults and especially a partner. I get frustrated because he doesn't understand how I feel. I'm no longer affectionate and he's not either. And the life coach is like, you're not getting tenderness. He's like, I think the opposite. He's very hard on me. I think you're very hard on me no matter what I do. Nothing is enough. In a talking head, she says he's very OCD about the house. He didn't want the house to ever look like we had kids in it. Every aspect, even business as well. You're tough on me, Jesse. And I just feel like we're living right now more as in like a brother and sister, not like Jackson Christian, as opposed to like husband and wife. The life coach has more chemistry with Michelle than Jesse does. Jesse's like, everything that she's saying, I'm trying to figure out examples that, and the life coach is like, don't lawyer, just sit with what you just heard. And he's like sitting, you can just tell he's like, it's like American Psycho. She's walking on eggshells, Jesse. She's tiptoeing, the life coach says. Everything has to be your way. And Jesse's like, it's hard to see her upset. I wonder if I was the best, most passive husband and father, would it have actually made a difference? I like that he's like, if I was a pussy, not an amazing guy like I'm at, he's like, I don't know, something to work on. I think there is a major disconnect with us. You know, I did this no drinking, fasting thing for 5 days and I lost 12 pounds or something. First time she's given me a compliment. And I don't know, because before we got married, probably. And Michelle's like, I can say the same exact thing about you. Not only do you not give me a compliment ever in your life, if I ever ask you, you do not give me compliments. If I ever ask you, like, do I look nice? I get a new dress or my hair is done or whatever. I feel good and I'm going to go out. You just look at me. Most of the time, you don't even look at me. You just pretend to look at me and you'll be like, that's fine. And the life coach is like, when is the last time you felt sexually attracted to him? And she laughs. She's like, don't ask me that question. When's the last time? I don't want to answer that. He's like, 3 years and 9 months ago. She's like, is that right? And she's like, I don't know the answer that, but we know the answer. It is true. And then in a talking head, Jesse's like, what is sex again? Oh yeah, I watched Pornhub the other day. When I first met Michelle, I was in the office. She'd be like, I'm naked in front of the mirror. What are you doing? And I'd be like, I'm in the car coming over. And then it turns into I'm too tired or I haven't brushed my teeth or I just got home from the gym. I don't know. Sex is a funny thing. You're with somebody for a long time and it's like, nah. Ooh. Nah, I'm going to go over to Schwartz and FaceTime the artist formerly known as Rachel. You know what I'm saying? But that's a dark thing. This is a very real scene. Like, this was real. Like, it was like, oh, this is real. This is real. And it's really sad, but I'm glad they left this scene in. It's a very real relationship. I was talking about Summer House. Like, I like it this season because you see all different forms of relationships, different stages of relationships. And we see that with the Valley as well, right? You got Jason and Janet on their way to having their first child. You've got Michelle and Jesse Lally about to split apart at the seams. You got Jax and Brittany doing whatever the fuck they're doing. You got Daniel and Nia that are actually in a really good place, I think, but just trying to like suffer through raising 3 kids at once. All of these different forms of relationship. You know, I like it. It's not one size fits all. I think it's important to show things like this because it's another, you know, you're like, oh, these are both good looking people, but they seem like they hate each other and they're not even having sex. Like they don't even like, it is like a brother and sister relationship. And that's not how relationships should be. But Jesse is so full of himself that he's like, you haven't complimented me. It's like, dude, it's not about you. Jesse's like, is there a point where it's like, okay, I've been a great guy now for 2 months. Are you still not treating me well? And you're still not treating me well? What do I do? And the coach says, your attachment to the result is going to cause you to fail. And he's like, whatever. You do it because you want to do it. And he's like, okay. You can tell he's not listening. If you're trying to get something out of her, she's going to sniff that right out. He's like, uh-huh, yeah, whatever. It's aware of how you're showing up. It's being aware of that. It's showing up kind. It's warmth. It's warmth to her. You could tell he's just like, oh, damn it. Oh, this is not me. This is not what I'm about. And you could tell Michelle is kind of like tearing up. And he's like, I get it. But you can tell he doesn't get it. It's really sad. Anyways, we get fun music. We're cruising around the valley. Shake that scene off. We're at Janet and Jason's house. All right. And he's got his tie off back from the office. He's like, babe, I'm craving McDonald's. And Jason's like, we have a fridge. And he's like, yeah, but I hear the baby and he's saying McDonald's. I need McDonald's. I have a feeling I might be in Janet's belly because I need McDonald's. It's wild. Anyways, they go into the nursery to check it out. They're just kind of doing like, where's the crib going to be? Is the bed going to stay? Here's the baby gifts. What do we have? It just stresses me out. In a talking head, Jason's like, the baby's going to sleep next to us for the first 2 months. And Janet's like, I hope so. And Jason's like, what, the baby going to say no? And it's got to be wild to think about this. Also, if you've never had a kid before, I just can't imagine how scary that is to try to figure out all those little ins and outs. And like, what if I'd be so scared of rolling over on the baby? How are we all going to do this? It's exciting, but scary. But I trust this couple. I think this couple, I'm excited to see them raise a child. But they got the McDonald's. So that's a good sign. Jason caved. And Janet's like, I needed this cheeseburger. I did. And Jason's like, a cheeseburger does look pretty good. I'm not going to lie. She's like, do you want a bite? He's like, no. I have abs. I can't do that. Janet tells him, I woke up today feeling exhausted with Kristen. I'm kind of like, I don't know. I'm confused. And then today, listen, she posted this story on her Instagram today. She posted, I would rather adjust my life to your absence than adjust my boundaries to accommodate your disrespect. Now, I remember when she posted this back in there, I thought she was talking about Stassi, but it was actually about Janet. And Janet's like, you threw me under the bus, Michelle under the bus, Zach under the bus, and Jasmine under the bus, all in one swoop. And Jason's like, uh-huh. She's looking at that cheeseburger. Janet's like, I said something small and Kristen made it so big. She didn't really just run with it. She ran a marathon with it. Michelle, Brittany, and I were at dinner a few months ago, Janet says in her talking head, and Michelle said something along the lines of, don't say gay laws protect children. And I'm like, no. That's, you're wrong. I know Jasmine is like read up on this and knows, Janet says to Jason, you know how stuff can be baked in to be harmful to certain communities. I just said to Jasmine, who I guess said to Zach, I said, we were talking about this bill that don't say gay, and I think she might support it, but it's like, I don't know. I was like, since it's related to the LGBT community, if you happen to hear her talking about it and sense the same thing I did, it might be like a teachable moment. Okay, so that's, we find out, comes out. She was talking about this. That led you down a path of thinking potentially this. That to me makes sense. And also, I love that she frames it as could be a teachable moment. There are a lot of teachable moments that I've learned from friends in my life. That's what friends do. And, you know, we're not all like, we don't know the ins and outs of like political movements and stuff. We're just kind of, we're wired by design to just get angry at things now before we even hear what anything is about. So I love when we frame things as a teachable moment instead of, you're wrong and fuck you. Like things can be teachable. We can learn. Janet says, I never once thought Michelle was racist. I wouldn't be her friend if I did. I thought that she maybe got swept up into an algorithm that maybe is teaching her some things that are not true. Somehow that got twisted. Well, if she believes in don't say gay laws, then she must be a Republican and Republicans are racist, is from what I understand how Kristen went from point A to point B. And Jason's like, I think in the future, you have to be somewhat cautious with anything that could potentially get to Kristen. When she gets information, it's just not coming out the way that it's meant. And Janet's like, it's not working for her. There needs to be an apology. And if she's not receptive, then it's really like, I need a break. This Jason, I hate to give men credit, but this Jason's got a head on his shoulders. He's got a head on his shoulders. Like that makes so much sense. Like he sees it right there. Hey, in the future, maybe don't tell Kristen stuff. Like that's like people are like, the producers are like, we got to get that fucking Jason out of here. He's thinking with his brain. Like, no, we need idiots that'll tell Kristen everything. No. Like to me, that's it exactly. And also I love what Janet says about getting swept up in the algorithm. I mean, that's it, man. You're on any of these social media sites. You read one story for longer than you're supposed to, you're just going to get fed more shit like that. Like I literally clicked on a dog video the other day of this really cute pair of dogs that love to like jump in pools. They jump in this bag. His name's Buster and his like brother and these two really beautiful dogs. And they just like to jump in this pool over and over again. And I watched it like 3 times because it made me laugh at night. And now all I get fed is Buster content. Now, that has nothing to do with Republicans or racist, but I'm just telling you, you stop on something for a little bit, you get it. The algorithm just feeds you nothing but that. Now, all my TikTok is just literally that dog jumping into a pool. And I'm not mad at it, but just thank God it's not anything really insane. Anyways, okay, so we're getting ready for the party after the commercial break, and Janet looked up the house that the dinner's going to be at. It's a $20 million mansion in the hills, and she's like, "It's going to be fabulous." And she's like, "You're inviting Kristen Doty to this place? I hope you guys have like listing insurance. Kristen will burn that motherfucker to the ground." And then we zoom on over to Jesse and Michelle's house. He's like, "I have 18 bottles of white wine, 50 beers, 6 bottles of gin for the Negronis. Okay, Michelle, 12 bottles of Prosecco." And she's like, "That's plenty. I mean, it's an important night for me. We're doing a Capri theme." And she's like, "For you or for us, it's our party. And you're just a guy wearing a suit. It's important to me, Michelle, because you don't love Capri as much as I do. We're about to throw this extremely expensive dinner party at this beautiful listing we have. It's going to be an homage to the island Capri that I have fallen in love with. Every year we go to Capri in Italy, and we see all the photos of them throughout the years. It's Michelin-starred restaurants, the best hotels. If you want to go to a place where all the billionaires have their yachts parked because that's who you want to sell to, you got to go to Capri. You do not sit around in Long Beach Harbor. You don't go to St. Bart's. You go to Capri in the summer. Let's enjoy ourselves, Michelle." That's what I'm saying, Jesse. This is a party and we are spending money on it. This is not a party. This is a sophisticated Capri. And she's like, "Stop saying sophisticated." But that's what it is, Michelle. It is, but you don't have to say that. You can have a sophisticated party without saying sophisticated. So these they're all loved up after their life coach session. They're doing great. Capri. Say it with me, Capri. Anyways, funky music plays. We're over at Jackson Brittany's house. They're getting ready. And he's like, "You're wearing top pants tonight." And Jackson goes, "The only Capri I know is Capri Suns." And Brittany's like, "Oh, Jack, you're funny. You're like Dave Chappelle." We see Danny and Nia dressed up. It's just cute. They're just a cute couple. He's like, "I am so glad you're back home. You can start pumping that teat milk again." And we see their babies. They're all beautiful. Danny says, "My weekend was insane while you were gone. The kids were screaming and crying the entire time." We see 20 hours earlier, them crying. It was rough. And she's like, "Well, I was having a martini in the lounge when you were dealing with that." Good for her. She deserves a martini in the lounge after giving birth to twins. Are you kidding me? Okay, so I feel like I'm watching Selling Sunset all of a sudden. We go to this place. It really is a beautiful house. It's Jesse and Michelle's Capri themed dinner. We see little place like menus set out. It just does really look perfect. I feel like Mauricio Omansky is going to come in like, "Hey, Love Bean, let's sell this place. Let's do it. All right. Hey, my wife is dating Morgan Wade. All right." Anyways, Zach and Jasmine's girlfriend, Melissa, they're all driving to this party. And Jasmine says, "Melissa and me have been together for about 3 years. She's actually from my hometown, Maplewood, New Jersey. She graduated with my brother. So, like, when she moved out here, it's kind of like a comfort, like a piece of home. And for me, I've always just been kind of a fluid person. She's been sexually fluid. But I guess if you had to put a label on it, I'm bisexual," she says. I saw them once before at a party. They really were cute together, which is awesome. But I got to tell you, anybody on this show, I just got to, just like, you're warned. You're warned. Just make sure your relationship is solid. So everybody is, entering the party. It really is like this whole theme. Daniel comes in. He's like, "Let's go. All right. This is what I'm talking about. This is amazing." Daniel's just like overall good guy. He's that guy that brings energy. Like, come on. All right. Negronis. That's what I'm talking about. Everybody's hugging before any kind of drama happens. Everybody looks beautiful. Brittany's in this kind of purple flowing number. Zach is wearing beautiful linen. He's saying, Jax goes, "I fucking hate dressing up. And now when I dress up, it has to be linen." And Zach's like, I'm not rich enough to buy a linen suit. I just have a linen shirt. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not rich enough. Whatever. It's now nighttime. We learn a little bit more about the house, $18.5 million. And, they're getting the food. So we cut to Luke and Kristen, who haven't arrived at the party yet. Now, I always hear with reality show producers, they always schedule the entrances. You see it on Housewives a lot. And I wonder if they purposely had Kristen and Luke be the last people to arrive. So that way they could get like some nice shit talking going on at the party before they entered. Anyways, Luke's in the car and he's like, I'm really hoping just for a peaceful night, just a nice, fun dinner with everybody. And Kristen's like, as Michelle and Jesse are hosting this, I want to make sure that I can just have a quick conversation with her and apologize about the R&R. We go back to the party and Zach's talking to Janet and Zach's like, what I think happened is Kristen took 9 different conversations and put them together. And Janet says, well, what I need tonight is for her to admit that she fully mixed this up and this was all her. So Kristen and Luke getting out of the car, we have intense music. Zach's like, oh my God, she's here. And Janet's like, I'm sure she'll come up like nothing's wrong. So hi, tense music playing. And Kristen's like, oh my God, so pretty. Jesse goes, I think Michelle has some pretty tough skin, but coming from a first generation, half Persian, half Mexican, whose father escaped Iran because of religious persecution, to be labeled as racist is just absurd, he says in a talking head. Kristen hugs Michelle and goes, I've never seen you glammy glam. You look gorgeous. Acts like nothing happened. And Kristen goes, I just want to talk to you whenever you're, and she's like, yeah, you want to go do that first? And Michelle's like, in a minute, let's not do that yet. And Kristen's like, okay, let's hug. Okay, let's do that. And Kristen hugs her and goes, I'm sorry. You know that, right? And Michelle's just smiling, just, And we cut to commercial. Ugh. So everybody's sitting down for dinner. It's this beautiful table, bread, mussels, cheese, the whole thing, the whole Italian thing. And Jax goes, hey, sweetheart, this is about as close as you're getting to Italy. You hear that, Brittany? And Brittany's like, oh, Jack, you're so funny when you tell me I'm not going to do things. It's just classic Jax joke. So everybody's getting their food, saying a lot of grazie. And Jax is like, this is better than California Pizza Kitchen. All right. I love it. Jax is just eating some pasta with his fingers. And Jesse's like, cheers to everybody. I hope you enjoy it. Let's cheers, everybody. Capri. And Michelle goes, do you think this is the most civil everybody will be in one spot together? And Janet is talking to Brittany and goes, I don't think Kristen realizes how mad I am. And Michelle goes, well, which is a little concerning. And Janet goes, I didn't respond to any text messages that Kristen has sent. Did you? And Michelle goes, no, I haven't. And Kristen is just talking to Luke kind of quietly at the table. And Janet's like, it's just unbelievable. In a talking head, Janet says, Kristen can ignore even the most obvious of tensions and scenarios and pretend like nothing is wrong. She's trained by early Vanderpump Rules seasons. We see Kristen laughing at the table. Janet goes, it's super annoying about somebody that's just so flippantly ignoring what's going on. And Michelle's like, it's one thing to have a conversation with somebody and it's another thing to actually listen. She's, kind of inferring that she doesn't listen. And Janet goes, she's 40 years old. She should know. And Kristen goes, does this feel inappropriate in a dinner table? She can hear what Janet's saying. So now we've started. And Janet goes, to be honest, I missed the last time everybody was together and a lot happened. And I personally would like to know what happened, what's going on. Huh? And Michelle goes, I think everybody's involved, so we might as well speak publicly because I think I'm tired of she said, he said. So if we're all at one table, we can all be on the same page. Jesse's like, here's my Capri party going down the drain. Janet goes, Kristen decided at Michelle's to say that I said Michelle was racist, which I have never thought in my life, let alone said out loud. And I don't know where that came from, but I am so disgusted by it. And Kristen goes, it came from Zach. And Zach's like, what? It's Zoinks. It did not come from me. Kristen held all this information, got all of it completely mixed up, he says in a talking head. You want to talk about a shit stew? Like there was no recipe. She was just grabbing numbers out like they were fucking Powerball. The game of telephone, Kristen says, was to Janet, to Jasmine, to Zach, to me and Luke, that you were telling Jasmine that she should be cautious of Michelle because she's quote unquote Republican. And what Zach insinuated at my house to Luke and I, that would equal racism. And Janet's face is just like, oh, really? Oh, really? And or homophobia. I like the and or. And Jasmine's like, take my name out of it. I didn't have a conversation with Janet, this one at all. So that's what I'm upset about. In a talking head, she's like, I'm black, so I have experienced racism. So to like have a friend just throw it out so lightly, like it's nothing, that's not fair. And it's not fair for Michelle. It's not fair for me. It's not fair for the whole group, Jasmine says. And Janet's just shaking her head. And Zach and the talking guys, I've known Michelle for a while. She is not homophobic, and I love her to pieces. And I really hate that. Unfortunately, this got said. I do. Kristen goes, what I want to immediately apologize to Michelle for is that I feel cornered. I felt cornered, and I should not have said those things out loud. I should write them in a book. No, she said, especially at your home. And Jesse's just looking at her. Jesse goes, why don't you say what you did and you lied? Call it a lie and don't call it anything else. And Kristen goes, Kristen goes, I did not lie. And then Luke goes, calm down. Luke, man, Luke, that woodsman, that Colorado woodsman, and then gets out. He goes, calm down. And Jesse goes, excuse me? Excuse me? And Luke in a talking head goes, that literal sack of shit twisted Kristen's nipple. We're back to the nipple twisting gate. He keeps attacking her. He wasn't there. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. That's strike 2. And those are big strikes. I don't know sports, but he says those are big strikes. Don't calm down. You're getting aggressive, Jesse. And Jesse goes, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. And Luke goes, I swear to God, I'll take you outside. If you want to talk to me, I will go outside, Luke. You walked in my house. And Kristen goes, I'm not. What are you? And Jesse goes, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. And Luke stands up. Luke is the first person to get up in this group. You would think it would be like one of the women. But Luke, shut the fuck up. You walked into my house, Dodie. Shut the fuck up. And Luke goes, you shut the fuck up, Jesse. You fucking lied. Apologize. Don't come at her. And Jax goes, this is not going to work. Jax is really quiet. And Jesse goes, she's not saying anything. And Michelle gets up and is like, it's all just, it's craziness, you guys. And Michelle goes, Nia goes, it's a game of telephone. In a talking head, she's like, I feel like Kristen was trying to apologize, but nobody was listening to her. She couldn't do anything right. It's an unfortunate to see because I see her making an effort and nothing productive is going to come from it, Nia says. Jenna goes, well, it's changed everything. Like, I don't trust a word that comes out of your mouth, Dodie. And Dodie's like, I didn't make this up. It came from Zach, Dodie says. And Jenna goes, I'm done with crazy Kristen. I'm done. Kristen goes, let's be honest. Given my past, I'm a pretty easy target. And we go flashback to 2012 of her fighting with Katie and Stassi. 2013, suck a dick, walk away, suck a dick. 2017, when Dodie's drunk and falls down. She's like, how am I supposed to make this better if you won't give me the opportunity? Maybe the root of this problem, Kristen says, is that I'm honest to a fault. Maybe I'm too honest, Kristen says. Zach knows that he fibbed. He's a fibber, and he knows that I'm right. We flash back to that night 2 nights ago where Jesse said, you're not wrong. I wasn't always this way, Kristen says, but now I'm just walking truth serum. I wasn't always this way. And yeah, it might rub some people the wrong way, but here I am, take it or leave it. I love that Kristen, that Dodie's like, I'm a truth teller. Sometimes you can't, sometimes when I'm bathed and just when I'm taking a shower of truth, some people don't like to shower in truth. Some people don't even use water to shower, but I shower in truth water. I love that Dodie's like, I'm too powerful with the truth. I spit so much truth that it makes, but I like that she's like, I wasn't always this way. I got bitten by a radioactive spider that made me just spit truth. Anyways, Janet in this scene goes, if you thought that I thought Michelle was racist, why wouldn't you call me? And Jason Caperna's like, why wouldn't you call Janet? And Janet, Dodie goes, well, I'm sorry. Zach brought it to my front door to make Janet look bad. And Janet goes, I don't think he did. I think this is all on you, Kristen. And Michelle Alley goes, you know what the problem is? And then Jesse goes, slams the door, goes, everybody shut the fuck up and let Michelle talk. He slams his fist. Michelle goes, Zach has said he has not said that. Janet says she has not said that. I believe that everybody at this table would not be my friend if they thought that. And Kristen goes, I don't think that, Michelle. And Michelle's like, that's not what I said. And Zach goes, I don't know how it became like I said that Janet said that because that is completely not the truth, he says in a talking head. But I will tell you this. If you call someone a Republican in LA, that's a death sentence right there. That is a social suicide. Also, if you say they eat carbs, you better be on the DL if you're a Republican because you're not going to get invited to anything. That's what Zach says. And then Jesse goes, you disrespected the family name. But by the way, I think maybe some of the scenes in this show are potentially disrespecting the family name. You literally just talked about how you watch porn. I don't know, whatever. Anyways, Jesse's like, we run a business together. Okay. If something like that gets out, you are ruining lives. And Michelle goes to talk and he goes, Michelle, please. And he puts his hand up. You were thrown off the fucking show for being an actual racist, Kristen. Oh, mic drop. Quiet. You hear the crickets. And Kristen goes, what the fuck did you just call me? And Kristen's like, I know that I made a mistake by roping Michelle into something that didn't have to do with her. But Jesse, he's just trying to ruin my name by bringing up the most painful thing that I've ever gone through. Did you not? Is that not a true statement? Jesse says. She says in a talking head, I understand why Michelle is upset. It is the worst thing in the world to be labeled as anything, let alone a racist. And nobody knows better than me because it happened to me. And I was canceled. And Kristen just shuts her eyes. It was probably the hardest time in my entire life. We see things flash over the screen. Kristen Doty fired over racist comments, June 9th, 2020. I'm not proud of what I did, and I'm sorry that I hurt people, but I've learned from my mistakes. These are my friends sitting here. They know my past. And all I want to do is pick up the pieces and move on with my life, be a good person. And it's like people finally gave me a chance again. She's crying now. June 7th, 2020, Kristen Doty apologizes to former co-star Faith Stowers. And now it's brought up all over again, and I am going to have to relive it again. Kristen Doty says she's learning about unconscious bias after firing. I hope that my whole life doesn't fall apart again, she says, crying. And Luke stands up and goes, I'm not going to be a part of this. And Michelle goes, you should go. And Jax just lowers his head. Everybody just looks nonplussed. To be continued, it says. That's a really dark ending. And I hope they let that scene play out a little bit more on episode 4 tonight. I hope they just don't go, oh, last night was crazy. And then we just see little clips of last night. But that's really the reality of that situation. I'm glad they are bringing that up. But I also think, it happened. Kristen says, it happened to me. Well, it happened to you because of things that you did. And I hope that was like, they edited maybe that part of her saying that out, because Kristen has admitted she did these things that brought this on. But I do believe there is a world in which you can learn from your mistakes. You can come back. I mean, at least I hope you can. For everybody. But that's a really serious conversation to have in episode 3 of a new series. So I'm really fascinated to see where this goes. But also, I just love that Jesse standing up for his wife. In the course of that, he literally slams the table and tells her to shut up. I mean, this is just the blind leading the blind. And it has some of my favorite moments in reality television, which is usually based around people being hypocritical. So chef's kiss to the Valley. I cannot wait to see episode 4. I mean, this thing is a mess. It is a mess. So, guys, I know this was an extra long episode, but I kind of needed to talk it out. I needed to exercise some demons. So thank you for being with me today. I hope you got some laughs out of this. And I can't wait to talk to you for the rest of the week. We got a Vanderpump Rules recap. We'll get a Valley recap over on the Patreon. We'll be doing a Summer House recap, which last week's Summer House was excellent. I am loving this season of Summer House so much. But if you like this show, always remember to consider rating it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can join the Patreon if you want. Tell your friends about this. And I appreciate you being here, as always. And if there's anybody you want me to talk to, you can always email sobaditsgoodwithryanbailey@gmail.com. And we can hopefully have them on the show. Okay. I love you guys. Bye.